Adam Caplan is our NFL insider extraordinaire from Pharrell, Adelphia. And we've been together a long time, and he sets the standard. The bar is very high. You can follow him on X at Caplan NFL. And you hear him every week on Coast to Coast on Thursdays, getting ready for the games with intel, injuries, and otherwise. Plus, in the second segment, the infamous Bust a Cap in Yo Ass, where Adam breaks down his spread picks for the week that is. And remember, it's week 18, which means no one is trying or playing in any game in the NFL. And the NFL is going to go 19 weeks and 18 games very soon. And it'll be the same thing, only worse when they move it to 19 weeks and 18 games. All right, let's start here with key injury and lineup updates for week 18. Let's start with Saturday's games. And I am going, just so you know, to the Steeler-Bengal game, and it will be -10 with the wind chill in Pittsburgh, and I will be freezing my onions off, but I will be drunk, and that is all that matters. When I am going outside with my son in 10-degree weather and 10 below with the wind chill, it is not going to be good. So you need whiskey, and I will drink whiskey and be prepared for the elements in the Steel City. But let's start with the Browns and Ravens. Yeah. I need the Browns to win the game with Bailey Zappi. Will this occur? He'll give you your pick later, but they're playing the Ravens, and they are heavy dogs.
Scotty, you have a better chance to score 30 on that team that you play for than the Browns have of winning, okay? It ain't going to happen. Yes, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, we need to add something to what you pointed out. Kevin Stefanski, the Browns head coach, did say that Dorian Thompson-Robinson, DTR, if you will, might actually play. He actually might relieve Zappi at some point in the game. Thompson-Robinson is a very raw quarterback. He needs a ton of work. It was known around the National Football League that it was a 2 or 3 year process for him. He's just not ready. Zappi, Bill Belichick drafted him. Patriots were done with him. He's bounced around a little bit, and he's going to get a chance to sort of revive his career. But the problem is this game's on the road. As you well know, the Ravens are a monster favorite here. In fact, I'd have to look this up. I think they're the biggest favorite this season, if I'm not mistaken.
They are.
Yeah. 18. We'll talk more about that later. But here's the thing, and we'll talk about the Ravens right now. The only injury of note, and this actually means something for the playoffs, Justice Hill, one of the better backup running backs in the National Football League, he's out again with his concussion. Nelson Aguilar, speaking of concussion, he's been cleared out of concussion protocol. So this game should not be close. And the Browns, boy, not only do they have a bad quarterback situation, they have to kind of reevaluate what their roster looks like because they've underachieved. It's not just the quarterback. Obviously, that's a major problem, but they've come way short this season.
The Browns are going to get whacked. The Bengals, meanwhile, are still alive, and they're playing in the Steel City against the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have fallen to pieces. I am hearing that Justin Fields will play in this game, and that he's gotten the first-team reps all week, and that they're going to sit down Russell Wilson, who has, in the last month, turned into an utter disaster for the Steelers. He is looking washed to me. Like, what a disaster he's become over the last month. Like, he could, his season went 12 weeks. And then after that, he's just been terrible.
Yeah, in the game against Kansas City, when you have to win, you got to be more competitive. He throws that interception in the red zone. You can't do that. Awful. It was a bad throw. By the way, we need to talk about Justin Fields. He had an abdomen injury. He was dealing with a couple weeks. He's fine to play now. We have to understand here, and this is the problem with this game, not being at the same time as the first game. Obviously, we know, Scott, if the Ravens win this game, which they should, easily, by the way, the Steelers will have nothing to play for. It means nothing to them. So you clearly could see what happened, because they're going to know before the game starts what happened with that Browns-Ravens game. And if it means nothing, right, you're almost starting to see a lot of backups playing anyway. And the Steelers, man, I really thought about 4 weeks ago, because they were on such a roll. Now, yes, they had a number of injuries. Joey Porter Jr., by the way, he'll be available to play, depending on if the game means anything to them. But he's good to go here, and that's good news because he's got a PCL sprain. It's a grade 1, I believe. But getting him back is huge. Getting George Pickens back a couple weeks ago was pretty big. But you could blame Russell Wilson all you want, but the lack of imagination in their pass game, They would not get Mike Williams the ball when George Pickens was out. That was a problem. They need more juice on offense. That's something that Omar Khan, their general manager, and Andy Whittle, his right-hand man, they've got to look at in this offseason. They got to look at the offensive structure, and obviously they don't know who the future quarterback is. Russell Wilson, of course, is on a one-year deal.
Do you believe the rumors that Kyler Murray would be the Steelers' choice?
First, no, not at this point. No, I get it, because if you look at Arthur Smith, he coached a mobile quarterback before, and Marcus Mariota. He's coached guys who can move. There's a cap issue with trading Kyler Murray. By the way, we'll talk about this more when we get closer to free agency. But here's the thing, Scott, and one thing I do want to tell you, and this is important, we talked about this on the Pro Football Today show. I already started working on free agency in terms of the quarterback position. It is absolutely dreadful. It's bad for the draft. There are two quarterbacks who are really, really good. Cam Ward, who's a top-rated quarterback by teams I've spoken to so far, and Shedeur Sanders. After that, you're not seeing a quarterback in the first round. So your Steelers are another team that's got to figure out a quarterback. This is not a year to need a starting quarterback.
What is the deal with, and by the way, Notre Dame just kicked a field goal, and then Stockton got sacked and fumbled, and the Irish recovered with 30 seconds left in the half. And on the first play, Riley Leonard threw a touchdown pass, and Notre Dame is sitting on top of Georgia at the half, 20 seconds before the half, 13-3. The Irish lead by 10 in the worst game I've ever watched in my life. What is the story with Jalen Hurts? He's a mess.
Yeah, so let's go back to the Washington game, right? They lost. You know, he suffered concussion in the first quarter, didn't return. Obviously, you suffer concussion, you're not allowed back. He has not practiced 1 second, okay, since he got hurt against Washington. He's not progressed enough to even practice, get a little practice time in the five-step concussion protocol. This is something to watch next week, leading up to their first postseason game, whether it's likely going to be against the Packers, by the way. Outside chance it'll be against the Commanders, who they just played 3 weeks ago. So that's a concern here. There's no question about it. Anytime a player suffers a concussion, you're worried about it. It's a brain injury. Let's call it what it really is. Kenny Pickett, by the way, his backup is broken ribs. This week, you're going to see Tanner McKee, the pride of Stanford University.
What could be worse?
Gets to start. Yeah. By the way, how about those touchdowns on 4 passes? Did a pretty good job last week.
Let me ask you about the Steelers' constant meltdowns in December over the last several years. They haven't won a playoff game since 2017. They had the division by the onions and blew that. That's over with and done.
Absolutely.
They're going to have to play on the road again in the wild card, no matter what, unless they win and the Ravens lose, which isn't happening.
It ain't happening.
Come hell or high water. So who is to blame for the last several years? This is going on 7 years, 8 years of meltdowns in December, and they just cannot win in the month of December, and they are kicking themselves in their own shin.
You and I have defended Mike Tomlin in the 5 years we've done shows together, but I'm no longer going to defend him here. I'm just not going to defend him because this is a collapse. This is another collapse in December. As you mentioned, and we've talked about this ad nauseum, Tomlin hasn't won a playoff game since the 2017 season. At some point, the head coach has got to take responsibility. He's got to look at why they're collapsing, okay? He changed offensive coordinators, which should have been done years ago with Matt Canada. He did it in the middle of last season. Okay, Arthur Smith, they started off well. They faded. You can't keep blaming injuries, by the way. Okay, you can't keep blaming injuries. They made a trade for Mike Williams. What did they do with Mike Williams? Mike Williams, I'm told, has been fine, and he's been healthy. They don't get the guy the football, okay? Offensive line's been fine. That's not been the problem here. And then defensively, yeah, they've had a couple injuries, but that's not the problem. Why do they collapse again? It's you got to start with the head coach, okay? Making the playoffs is a nice accomplishment, but you got to do better than that. At some point, the head coach has got to take responsibility for this collapse. Absolutely, it's fair to say it starts with him.
Okay, fair enough, and I agree with all that. I also think that in the NFL, if you don't make the playoffs, you're just a loser. And if you make the playoffs, that matters. That's it. If you get in to that tournament, that is all that matters. And they never do anything with it, but they get there, which is really, I believe, all the Rooneys expect is playoffs and a possible championship run more than they used to demand excellence and championships. That's all there is to it. Now they're satisfied with making the playoffs. All right, Sunday, Commanders at Cowboys, meaningless.
Yeah, but don't tell Dan Quinn that. Dan Quinn, the Commanders head coach, made it very clear they want that 6th seed. Look, the chances of them, first of all, to get a home game, they have to be in the championship game, and everyone ahead of them has to be out. But they want that 6th seed over the Packers, and he claims that they're going to play the starters to win. Now, the one issue, and this is going to come into play, especially next week, they've got pretty significant injury issues on their offensive line. Biotish, their center, has got an ankle injury. Andrew Wiley, a Super Bowl winner with the Chiefs, he's the right tackle. He's got this lingering injury, this groin injury. Now, he did some work today. You got to be careful. They got to play next week. But the big thing, this is really important, is Austin Eckler had this concussion. He's on an injured reserve. He's very close to being cleared. He's at the last step of the concussion protocol. He had a season-high 8 catches against the Eagles earlier this season in Philly. He's their third down back. They've absolutely missed him in tough situations when you need to get a first down or third down. Getting him back potentially this week would be huge, and particularly for the playoffs. And when you really look at it, Scott, I'm with a lot of people. They're on the road anyway. Does it really matter? We know for sure that they're going to play the Eagles or most likely the Rams, and that's going to be on the road anyway. So to me, it really doesn't matter. But it is interesting, depending which coaches you talk to. Some say if home field is not on the line, we're not playing anybody. Some teams say, hey, wait a minute, Nair, we can't, if we've got something on the line, we're playing our starters. And by the way, that's what Dan Quinn is doing here.
Another meaningless game, the Packers and Bears.
Yeah, and again, this is for seeding, but the Packers, they have some injury issues on the back end of their defense. The big one is Jair Alexander, their best corner. He will not play again this season. He's having knee surgery. Scott, you remember last year, you and I were talking about him leading up to that Dallas game, and he had a great game, his best game of the season. He has not been the same since then. He's had this lingering knee injury for most of the season. It finally gave way. He had to have surgery. That would worry people for the playoffs. They're not very good at corner to begin with. That is by far the weakest position on defense. And to me, that's why they're not going to make a big run in the playoffs. And most likely, by the way, next weekend, it's almost certain that they'll play the Eagles in Philly.
Vikings and Lions.
Yeah, this is a great one, obviously. This is the game of the season. Who knew the Vikings would be in this place? Now, the Vikings have overachieved at corner. Fabian Moreau, he is a true journeyman. He's been with 6 teams, Scott. He's missed the last 2 games due to a hip injury. He's still limited. They're not very deep at that position. You've got to be deep when you play the Lions because of the way that they throw the football. That worries me. Going to the Lions, David Montgomery with his MCL sprain, he's out. Their hope is if they make it to the championship game that he could return. He does not need knee surgery. But Alex Anzalone, we've talked about him coming back from that elbow fracture. It's healed. He's got to get his conditioning back. But the good thing is he's one of their best inside backers and he's practicing. But this is a great game. I cannot wait for this game on Sunday night. As soon as this game is over, Sunday night, they will announce the wild card round schedule.
All right, it's time for Bust a Cap in Your Ass, where Adam's going to have to haul ass.
Yeah.
Saturday, Baltimore laying 20, Pittsburgh getting 1.5 at home from the Bengals.
I like Pittsburgh one way or the other. In a game, as you were talking about, it's probably going to be meaningless. But the other game, 20 is absolutely insane. Bailey Zappi, by the way, is better than DTR. I'll take the Zappies plus the 20.
All right, so let's do pairs. Atlanta laying 8 to Carolina. Dallas getting 6.5 from Washington.
I like Atlanta, and I like Washington.
Green Bay laying 10 to the Bears. Indy laying 5 to Jags.
Like Green Bay to blow out the Bears. And what was the other game?
And it's Indy laying 5 to the Jags.
Yeah, I like Flacco to bounce back and get the job done against the Jaguars.
Buffalo laying 2.5 to New England. Giants getting 3 from Philly.
Yeah, Buffalo's going to rest their players. I like, by the way, in both games, I like the away team.
All right, Tampa laying 13.5 to New Orleans. Tennessee laying 1.5 to Houston. You got to haul ass.
Tampa will blow out, and New Orleans will not cover that game.
Arizona laying 4.5 to San Francisco. Denver laying 10.5 to Kansas City. Haul ass.
Like Denver and like Arizona.
Vegas getting 4.5 from the Chargers. Rams getting 6.5 from Seattle. Hurry.
Like the Raiders, the Chargers will rest their players.
Jets getting
And
1
Seattle
from Miami.
as well.
Detroit laying 3.
Miami, and Detroit for sure.